Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, hitting you guys with a question that is sort of at the top of my head ever since I read this recent interview and some excerpts from this interview that GQ just launched with André 3000, where he's pretty much talking about how he's toward the end of his music career now. He isn't likely to put out that album he's been meaning to put out. And a lot of what he's saying about his music career being over has a lot to do with him being old, being out of touch, sort of seeing this new, younger wave of artists out there and almost being, I don't know, like demotivated by knowing that he's no longer in that position. He's no longer a young artist anymore. He's no longer this young, vibrant dude making music, and now he's kind of maybe making way or making room for this new generation of guys to come in and do their thing. As if Andre 3000 still continuing to have a music career would impede that in some sort of way. Here's the thing. I think there's no such thing as being too old to be an artist, no matter what your medium is. And as rap ages as a genre and as a culture, I think it's going to look sillier and sillier to say, oh, you know, you're too old to rap or you're too old to be rapping and so on and so forth. I think this year, last year, I mean, really this entire decade, as hip hop has gotten to an age where it can now finally look back on itself in almost a nostalgic way. You have more artists out there who are proving that it's very much a legitimate thing to be an aging rapper. You can still come out with good music. You can still come out with relevant music. You can still come out with music that says something significant. And I think part of the way of aging gracefully in that way is to accept that maturity and allow that maturity to define your creative process. Because the thing is, while, yeah, you may not be a young rapper, that experience that you have leading up until this point will lead you to a unique place that not only these younger rappers cannot get to because they lack the experience that you have, but it'll also lead you to a place that's different than any other artist who may be a contemporary of yours, because your journey to that point where you are creating right now is going to be entirely different from anybody who you may have come up with back in the day when you were younger. So, you know, that's what I think leads to albums like Kanye's latest record, Jay-Z's latest record, other rappers who I know are getting up there in age but are maybe more underground, like Billy Woods, for example, who I enjoy quite a bit. LP and Killer Mike, you know, these guys are not spring chickens. These guys are not young dudes, but yet they're coming out with some of the most essential and some of the most interesting rap music right now. And that's not to say that the material that these young guys are coming out with isn't good. It certainly is. I think it is very good. It's just sort of disheartening and disappointing to think that somebody may be out there, especially as talented as Andre 3000, and thinking, I'm too old to rap. I'm too old for rapping. I'm too old for creativity. I'm too old for making things. I'm too old for that. And maybe he is making a lot of music privately. You know, he did say in this interview that he has files on files on files, that if he were to die, there would be so many files of music and songs left over for people to dig through. Hopefully, we do eventually hear some of that down the road. And hopefully it happens before he even passes away and he does get the chance to put out that record that he wants to put out. But, man, there's so many great records out there put up by older artists in other genres, and it would be sad to know that we're missing out on some great music, we're missing out on some great talent in the hip-hop sphere simply because there's this stigma against older artists and there's this inherent bias toward younger artists, which, keep in mind, that is only here because hip-hop is still relatively a very young genre. Once the genre ages 10 more years, that bias, that the word I'm looking for is disdain for older artists, is going to disappear. Not to say that the younger generation is necessarily going to take right to older artists simply because they're older artists and that there will be no bias whatsoever, but I'm saying it'll be a little bit more expected. It'll be a little bit more accepted that there are artists out there who are older and are still creating within the hip-hop genre and are making older, more mature music for an older, more mature audience. You know, I think if anything in hip hop doesn't age all that well, It's that when you get older and you're essentially making, Little Pump style stuff, like I can't imagine Little Pump doing what he's doing at 50, you know? Like something like what Jay-Z does, that ages well. You can continue to do that. But something like what Little Pump does, it's sort of hinged on the idea of youth and recklessness. It completely depends on it. It is in fact its lifeblood. What Jay-Z does, however, there's always been an element of intricacy and layers and maturity to what Jay does, even when he was younger. So it's not like his artistry and his ability and his talents hinged entirely on him being young and brash and ballsy. A lot like a dude like Kendrick. He is young right now, and the fact that he's young, the fact that he's appealing to a young audience, the fact that he is making music that connects directly to a younger audience because that is the generation that he comes from. I could see an artist like him aging very well as he gets older and continues to create, hopefully, because he has a sound, he has a style that I could see getting mature over the years and still not only captivating the hearts and minds of younger audiences, but still entertaining the crowd of people that he has gathered in this generation, in this decade. So André, I love the guy's music. I think the guy's massively talented, but I'm still just kind of disappointed by this mental block it sort of seems like he's thrown in front of himself that has to do with this age thing, this generational thing. I mean, he's one of the most unique and visionary rappers out there, period. And I don't think that he should sort of put this blockade on himself. And I don't think any artist should, as long as they feel like they still have ideas they need to express, that they still have something that they need to say that they want to say. If they still have something they feel like they need to communicate to their audience, if they have a concept musically or lyrically that they think they're bringing to the table that nobody else is. If you feel like you have that fire and you have that passion, you have that need to communicate something through art with people, and it's something that you feel like the world needs to hear, and it's something that you think you're doing and nobody else is doing, no matter what age you're at, no matter what generation you come from, no matter what place you come from, there's really no reason not to create it. Obviously, there could be physical complications or there could be monetary complications keeping you from making the record that you want to make. I understand that. But if you have the means and it's something that you really want to do, then go for it. Don't let something like age stop you. Don't let something like any other defining personal characteristic, whether it be race or gender or sexuality or whatever. But again, age is kind of a ridiculous reason not to create something, is kind of a ridiculous reason not to put out music or whatever your medium is. So I don't think there is or should be going forward a certain age at which you're like, yeah, I should stop rapping. I shouldn't be a rapper anymore. Rap is inherently a genre or a style of music for young people. I don't think that's necessarily the case. Maybe it doesn't seem like that now because, again, still relatively young as an artistic institution. But should there be an age limitation? I don't think so. All right, guys. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this video and what you thought of this André 3000 interview. I'll leave a link to an article with some snippets from it down in the description box. Over here next to my head is another video that you should check out, or you can click on the link to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Forever.